the opening of schools. You can't go in the media. You work for the government and you be advocating the closing of schools. So in my role and other persons, we were to share with the task force what is the science to support what they're going to be saying. So we got an email. This is what started my situation. We got an email from the NIH, CDC, it involved Dr. Fauci. And the email basically in general was saying that Dr. Fauci is going on the news this weekend, this show. And Dr. Fauci is going to be talking about schools closures, etc. So we were asked to comment. So I responded when my turn to comment, and I responded to the NIH, and I responded to everybody, CDC people, whomever was on that comment. There was a massive number of high-level officials. So I said, look, Dr. Fauci cannot go on the news and advocate for schools closing. This is in general what I said. Because the science does not support that position. And here's what the science says. And I attached about 10 studies. There was a study out of Sweden at that point. Martin Kulroff mentioned it earlier. Ludvigsen was Dr. Ludvigsen. It looked at 1.95 million Swede kids, ages 0 to 16. They followed them for the entire pandemic. No lockdowns, no masks, nothing. They found 0 instances of death. 0. In fact, the teachers did better than people of other professions outside of teaching. And we knew that, I explained to them that the teaching profession is probably the safest profession to be in, because the median age in America is 41. Teachers are generally young and healthy. If you are an unhealthy person, you have a medical condition as a teacher, yes, exercise your option to work remotely. You make that arrangement. But a carte blanche, keep schools closed. When we had another study out of the French Alps by Danis et al., they looked at one child that was infected in France, moved around to 3 schools, contaminated 120 other people, teachers and students. They found not one instance of secondary transmission. So I went through every single study in my response, and I said, this is the science. So if Dr. Fauci, this was my question, if Dr. Fauci is not aware of the science, can you please share the science with Dr. Fauci? Because if he's advocating to keep schools closed, there's no science today that I have seen that supports it, that they should not be advocating for keeping schools closed because you are suffering children. Listen, sexual abuse of children skyrocketed with the school closures. The school is the one place that sexual abuse and physical abuse of children comes to the attention of the school often first. That is how we know what's going on in the home often. When you close schools, there were hundreds of thousands of cases that escaped capture. We missed. We had children, we had parents, husbands and wives appearing. We were looking at the data. The news wouldn't report it. But see, I knew the data. The news wouldn't report it because it would have given President Trump a positive look because he was pushing to open schools. They were keeping schools closed. We had data showing us from the different states that there were husbands and wives appearing at the emergency room with their child limp, unresponsive in their arms, telling the emergency room doctor, look, I think I might have killed my child. Could you help me? And explain that I've been laid off. My husband's been laid off. We've been fighting each other now for a year, beating each other. And we beat the child, So we knew the data. President Trump knew the data. That is why people saw him aggressively on the podium begging the country to reopen and the schools to reopen and fighting with the unions because he was seeing what we were seeing. And the media would not report it because then it would make Trump look good. So I was trying everything I could to inform whomever the NIH and CDC. Look, you people are a little misguided because if you're talking about the science, you're not following the science. The science shows that you're wrong. Long and short of this was, after that email exchange, there was a high-level meeting on HHS, and there were people from CDC and NIH that came. And after the meeting, I'm walking back to my cubicle office, and they were going to the elevator, and they walked with me. And two of them, I didn't even know these people, but they were in this meeting. You know, often you have this big high-level meeting, teleconference, and people take roll call, but they're like 50 people, you don't even know them. A lot of them were justice people, lawyers. You know, they're there to make sure you don't say anything wrong. Anyway, they were walking me in and saying, Paul, you know, we know that you're here and stuff, and we really like a lot of things that you say, and we actually agree with you. So I said, well, first of all, I thought they were lawyers, and said, no, we work at NIH, and we're going. So I said, well, you know, thank you very much. And they said, well, we want to let you know something. Because of your pushback on the NIH and Dr. Fauci openly, they're going to smear and slander you. They have already gotten all of your units' communications, and they are going to pick a word or a line that you've written, not your entire communication, and they're going to create a story around that line. So I'm asking them, I said, well, how could I prevent that? They said, you can't prevent it. It's already done. The story is probably going to run in about 4 days. And exactly as they said, in about 4 days from that day, the news started to leak my emails. So that began in DC, and the White House and everyone involved made sure they let me know, and whomever I worked with, and other people who were being attacked, like Dr. Atlas, etc. Do not respond to the media. Don't grant no interviews. Just write it out. But I have to tell you, I was in DC, where my apartment was. That was the Capitol building, and that was the White House. So I was in the nerve center of it. I had press outside my building. I had people calling the media. I don't know how they did it. They leaked my cell phone. Press were calling me. People were calling my phone, sending me threatening emails, threatening my life, my wife, my little kid. What surprised me the most was faculty at McMaster. I was stunned. There were faculty at McMaster who were outraged that I worked for President Trump. So I'm sitting in DC, and I didn't know what to do. I'm sharing with you. I wanted to go home. Means home for me was Canada. But I'm thinking, how would I do this? You know, because I don't know if maybe if I get home, I might see people outside my door. You know, because that's how these people operate. And I was dealing with it in DC, and then I got moved around DC between Virginia, Maryland, back to DC for safety and security. So I was being helped for my safety, keep my family safe. And at one point, you know, just so that you understand, what the media writes about people is almost 99.5% untrue, often. And they did that to me. They tried to cancel Dr. Atlas. They've tried to cancel Dr. Bhattacharya. Many good professors, many good doctors in Canada. I'll give you Dr. Mark Trozzi, Dr. Francis Christian, Dr. Hoff, Dr. Kulvinder Gill. All these people I work with daily on early treatment. Why? Because they advocated early treatment. And then I was told, because you are advocating for early outpatient treatment, even though we knew that it was effective and it saved lives, that was off the table. And because you've done that, I had also written the FDA high-level this communication where I laid out, you know, looking at the clinical trial as it's going on, you know, I have been in government and stuff. I'd like to tell you that these are the flaws that I think are in the trial. I think that the trial, you must follow this trial longer term. The issue about talking about giving emergency use authorization is such a small sample size, small number of events. And I went through the research methods with them. Said once you have less than 200 events, less than 300 events, there's a severe risk of overestimating of the treatment effect. We published those papers. I came from McMaster, and we are purist methodologists. I laid out how wrong they were in Washington EAU. And I said, you know, what are the surveillance that you need to implement? The surveillance systems to follow the safety events long term. So I was on the chopping block it's almost as though the bullseye was in between my eyes. And it was the most horrible experience ever, especially with my experience at McMaster, because McMaster reached out to me and told me, because I mean, you're Canadian, so I'll explain to you what they did. They said, Paul, we have the entire media in Canada want an interview. I said, well, I can't give no interview to nobody. The White House has told me I can't speak to anybody. Then they said, they want to interview people in the university. I said, well, I can't stop that. All of a sudden, I started to get emails and calls from professors from Oxford, because I attended Oxford, who were my professors back then. I even forgot who they were, telling me, Paul, this media person sent me an email and wanted to ask me questions about you, what type of person you were, did I ever see anything odd about you? And you were just my scientific student. So this person actually supervised my thesis. I don't have anything negative to say. What should I tell them? I said, well, you just tell them the truth. They communicated. They went into all my published literature, all of the studies I published, and they're numerous. And they found all of the co-authors that I co-authored with. And they communicated with them, asking them things about me. Is this a good guy? Did he ever do anything wrong to you? Nobody had anything negative to say about me. But it is the most catastrophic thing, devastating to you, to know that I am living in Canada. This is my home. Now I'm outside, and you have the press in Canada like in a frenzy. They just want a story. They just want to write something, and they're not investigating it properly to know the truth. And it just went on, and then by around the end of September, I couldn't take it much more. And I'll be straightforward. I'll tell you on the inside. The White House called me and told me that you just keep not responding to the press. We are going to bring you into the White House in 2 weeks, move you out of HHS, and bring you there. And that will be it. By then, there will be another story. Turns out, next day, Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg passed away, sadly. And from my point of view, I got communications from the White House and they pretty much told me and other persons that now you're going to be off the front page because now they have another story to deal with. And that's exactly what happened. It stopped right there. But I was so frustrated. I was so angry as to what I went through. I wasn't interested in going to the White House. I wasn't interested in anything anymore. I still supported Trump. I still did. I still do. That's a separate discussion, but I left. I gave my resignation at the end of September, and that was it. And when I left and I went back to Canada immediately, people like Dr. Risch, Dr. McCullough, different people across the world wrote me and said, we saw what you were going through and stuff, but we don't want to waste your intelligence and your ability. We're working on early treatment. We're working on different issues, and we want you to join our teams. So I joined about 6 different research groups, electronically and by teleconference. And I realized I need to keep my mind busy to just help me begin some kind of healing from what I went through. And so that's what I've been active in early treatment, writing all these papers, consulting, interviewing on Fox, wherever, just to keep me sane, because it is true that it is very difficult for you to go through that situation, come out of it normal anymore, because they take your life and they try to burn you down, and it is a terrible situation.